How to write Hebrew letters. This section offers some tips on developing clean penmanship as you learn to write the Hebrew script. As each consonant was introduced through the course of Unit 0, these pages were referred to. Consequently, for detailed information, it would be a good idea to go to the specific modules where certain consonants were introduced. However, it would be convenient to offer a few brief remarks regarding the diagnostic features of the letters that we find here. Principally, these will be coming from the column that's labeled NB, Nota Bene. And notice in particular where a circle has been imposed over the letter and then the written comment beneath that explains what is a diagnostic feature that we want to be careful about with that particular letter. The main encouragement for the letter Aleph is to avoid the temptation of simply making an X. Instead, use offset strokes with short curves on them for the side arms. For the letter Bet, it's very important that the base line extends to the right beyond the vertical line. Otherwise, it'll be mistaken for the letter Kaf. Retain the narrowness of the letter Gimel, and then make sure that the base forms a slight fork. For Dalet, it's essential that the top bar extend to the right beyond the vertical bar. There must be an overhang. In the letter He, be careful that the left vertical bar does not touch the top bar. There must be a gap. The letter Vav is very narrow. With the letter Zayin, as you angle that top piece, be sure to roughly bisect it with the vertical piece. In the letter Chet, you'll want to join both the right and the left vertical pieces to the crossbar at the top. With the letter Tet, it's a good idea to retain the tags at the top ends of this letter. Yod is a very small letter and rides high in the writing field. For Kaf, it's a good idea to round the corners. In the case of Kaf Sofit, the final Kaf, it's essential that the vertical stroke trespass the lower line of writing. Otherwise, it'll be confused for a Dalet or possibly a Resh. For the letter Lamed, take care that you initiate this above the top line of writing. You may wish to think of the letter Mem as roughly a triangle with a tag coming off from the upper left zone. The Mem Sofit will be fairly much like a square with corners and also a tag at the upper left. The letter Nun should be kept very narrow, and it's a good idea to extend the lower bar a little to the left, longer than the upper bar. This helps distinguish this letter. For a Nun Sofit, the final Nun, be sure that the tag extends beyond the lower line of writing. In the Samech, simply a flat top, and then a rounded base, a slight tag at the upper left. With Ayin, although the top tags are not essential, it's a good idea to make the base so that it angles downward slightly. The letter Pe unwraps itself in a fairly angular fashion. Be sure to keep the gap open at the lower left zone of the letter. For the final form, the Pe Sofit, be sure that the tail trespasses the lower line of writing. When writing a Tzadi, take care that the short arm that extends from the middle upward toward the upper right corner, take care that this intercepts the large diagonal at roughly its midpoint. It's very important that this right arm not slide downward and intercept at the base. Otherwise, this could be confused for an ion. Also, it's a good idea to retain the tags, the little hooks, at the tops of the small arms. The final tzadi is another final letter whose tail must trespass the lower line of writing. Kof, although it's not a final letter, also must trespass the lower line of writing, and that refers to the vertical stroke. In addition, the vertical stroke should not join with the top bar. There should be a gap. With the letter Resh, if you make it a practice to round the corner, that will help ensure that it is not confused with a dalet. For the letter Shin, please resist the temptation to write this as a W. Instead, write it as a horseshoe, an open loop facing upward with a diagonal center stroke. Keep in mind that the dot on the right distinguishes Shin, the dot on the left distinguishes Sin. For the letter Tav, both vertical strokes should join to the top horizontal bar, leave no gap, and also create a small check mark at the bottom of the left-hand vertical stroke. On the lower portion of the screen, you see the practice writing sheet. The intent of the dotted lines is to give you upper and lower writing lines, and there's room for vowels then to be written below the lower dotted line. It's a good idea to write a full line of each of these letters. If you wish, it may be a good idea to copy the practice writing sheet to give you more room to develop your handwriting style.